Yeah, this is a pretty stacked Mystic rotation. Wait until around the 20th, right? Right around the 20th, we'll see who the new ML5 is, and then you can decide if it's time to finally get your Lilibet, Archdemon, or Silverblade, or Commander Pavel if you like Commander Pavel, because he's kind of hard to use right now. But I don't recommend anybody pull on any of these units, even though I think Archdemon is going to be really freaking good, even though Lilibet is really freaking good. You don't want to pull on these units and have the next ML Luna, the next ML Landy, the next Ilanov drop. So wait and see what's coming. Wait and see what's next before you pull on this. And that's advice I still stand by. You should definitely wait and see what's coming next before you pull on any in-between new Mystic banners. But here's the thing. We kind of got baited. That banner, that really nice banner, it doesn't appear to exist. If you look at what's coming next week, and next week we have Operator Sigrid, Spectre Tenebria, and Apocalypse Ravi on banner with Archdemon Shadow, which is kind of frustrating because none of these units are any good. I mean, Archdemon Shadow is still Archdemon Shadow. She was the one that everybody had their attention on after her buffs and her EE. She's doing pretty well right now. But Designer Lilibet, still a powerhouse unit. Silverblade Araminta, fantastic, usable unit. Operator Sigrid is terrible. Spectre Tenebria is unusable in basically anywhere but Abyss anymore. Apocalypse Ravi is still a nice meat and potatoes unit, but not what people were expecting. Now, what happened? Why did the Mystic lineup change literally overnight? We don't know. Talked to my contacts at Smilegate. They said they're going to look into it and let us know. Hopefully it gets changed back because, well, let's just break it down, right, guys? Archdemon Shadow has always been kind of in the niche to solid tier list, but since her EEs and her buffs, she's been making headway. She might even become meta this season. It's hard to say. We haven't gotten a lot of time under our belt with the new Archdemon, but at very least she's near the top of the A tier. Designer Lilibet has been a meta unit for a while. We're in a debuff heavy meta and a unit that can cleanse debuffs, rollback skills, deal lots of damage, and has a defense break on her S1. Is a very, very good solid pickup to have. Silverblade Araminta is a very solid unit. About the only thing that slows her down is the presence of immunity. If you take her into somebody who doesn't have immunity, you can run them over with Silverblade Araminta. She feels very good to use in certain situations. And Commander Pavel, his usefulness has dropped down to the niche category, his niche being cleave support. Most of his damage relies on penetration. That makes him a little difficult to use in a post-Empyrean Ilanov meta, but still somewhat solid. Now we're replacing these with Operator Sigurd, who is objectively the worst ML5 in the game. I think it is pretty safe to say, as far as ML5s that are ever on banners, Operator Sigurd is hands down the one who needs the most help. She is absolute trash. Spectre Tenebria also needs a buff. Right now her only use is in PvE, and while it's a good use in PvE, other units have started to outclass her, and your need for her has lessened more and more, and she is really just not usable in mainline RTA. And then Apocalypse Ravi, who's kind of a niche unit. She is her niche is really just that you couldn't think of what to draft, and you needed to slam something. So you slammed Apoc Ravi. She's a safe anchor for your cleave. She is a safe bruiser for your standard. In almost every situation, there was probably a better choice, but when you just can't figure out what to draft Apoc, and she'll usually help you win. So, yeah, when you look at it this way, we've gone from a really, really juiced Mystic banner down to a really, really mediocre banner if you're not going for Archdemon Shadow. And this is frustrating. People will say, well, but Archdemon Shadow is really the only unit on the banner. She's the one that everybody was going to go for. And I don't think that's the case. I know at least one person who was excited to get Araminta, who actually skipped Hua Young just to pull Araminta. I know several people who were gunning for Designer Lilibet who wanted this unit on their team, who wanted to exploit running Designer Lilibet with Afternoon Soak Flan, and now she's not on banner anymore. Nobody wants Operator Sigrid. Unless they're pulling her for waifu status, nobody goes for either of these units outside of looking at old tier lists, waifu status, or hoping that a buff is coming up around the corner. So what happened, Smilegate? Why'd you change it on us? change it back. Stop changing the rotations. Stop baiting us with really good rotations and then releasing really bad rotations. And for those wanting to know, should you pick any of these over Hua Young? Hua Young is a interesting unit, right? I'm going to put her near the bottom of niche, and her niche is the same as Faithless Lydica's niche, right? Her niche is you better be in the top 1% of the 1% for gear. If you are in that top 1% of the 1%, you'll make headway with her. People using her in Legend have really strong win rates. Their results are really good with her. If you can build the insane gear score, she is deep in the solids. Some might even say meta, although I think that's a little cope. She's deep in the solids if you have the gear, just like Faithless Lydica. If you don't have the gear to hit her minimum stat requirements, and I'm talking like 4,300 attack, 340 crit damage kind of minimum requirements, that's not easy. If you don't have the gear to hit that, she needs a buff. She's not niche. She's not like Apoc Ravi, where if you have amazing gear, she's great, and if you have trash gear, she's still usable. Hua Young, you either have amazing gear and she's usable, or she's not usable at all. So if you're relatively new to this game, you don't pull this unit. A lot of units scale. Take Navy Captain Landy, for example. You could run a 400 gear score, Navy Captain Landy, still be successful. You could just drop her down to 0 speed, stack everything else, and with early game gear, make her usable. Not necessarily climbing into Emperor with her, but you're going to be able to use her in lower elos just fine. You put 400 gear score on this unit, and she just dies, and doesn't kill anything while she's dying. The gear would just legitimately be better on other units. In my opinion, this unit needs a buff to make her more accessible to the rest of the player base. She doesn't need to be more powerful. She doesn't need to hit harder. She doesn't need to be stronger. She doesn't need to do more things. As we've seen at the top end of the meta, people are doing strong things with her. The problem is below that top 1% of the top 1%, right? Below Emperor tier gear, people can't build her, and it's frustrating to pull a unit that has 0 use to you in the game because you are 2 years behind on the gear necessary to make this even a functional unit. A 400 gear score Hua Young does nothing. So my caution to you is, if you're relatively new, if you don't have the gear to make this unit work, just skip her. You pull her and she's not going to do anything for you. But if you've got the gear to make her work, some people are having success with her. So that's my take on the banner we've got and the banners that are coming up and what the heck happened. Once I find out more, I will let you guys know. Until next time, have a great one, Epic 7. Take care, everybody.